Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Edge of Eternities. The set releases early next week, but I already got to try out this Naya spacecraft survival deck, which uses the spacecraft cards from Edge of Eternities, which features the new station mechanic, which is pretty similar to how you crew a vehicle, but instead of having to do it all at once, you can potentially spread things out over the course of multiple turns, but of course the cost is also a little bit steeper. In this case, we need 7+ power worth of creatures in order to enable the Sledge class sea chip, at which point it turns into a 4/5 flyer, and then when it attacks we may put a creature card from our hand onto the battlefield. So that's a very powerful ability if we can cheat some expensive creatures into play, and there's no shortage of those, so our plan definitely involves enabling the sea chip if possible, and we could do so as early as turn 3 if we're quite lucky. Turn 1 play Helena Elves, turn 2 we can cast the sea chip, and then turn 3 with 4 mana we can cast Enzrag the Quake Mole, which has 8 power, so that's enough to fully enable our sea chip all by itself, so we can be attacking and putting creatures into play. Could also maybe replace Enzrag with Kona as another enabler. This one has the survival mechanic, and that's a natural inclusion in a deck with a bunch of vehicles, and in this case spacecraft, as we can easily tap it down without needing to attack, and then at the beginning of our second main phase, if Kona is tapped, we may put a permanent card from our hand onto the battlefield. So that's another way to cheat our expensive creatures into play without even needing to enable the sea chip. And for added redundancy, we also have the Seriema as another spacecraft that can help tap down Kona, and when this enters, we also get to search our library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, and put it into our hand. So if we don't have a Kona in hand already, the Seriema can just find it for us. If we already have a Kona, then now we can look for some of our curve toppers, since all our expensive creatures in this deck are also legendary, so now Kona will have something expensive to put in play once we do eventually tap it down. And then the Seriema, once we enable it, turns into a 5/5 flyer, saying other tapped legendary creatures we control have indestructible. And that's also a very useful ability, since Kona is naturally going to be tapped down, but even if we cheat some legendary creatures into play with Kona's ability, in our second main phase we can still tap those same legends down just to enable the Seriema. Even if it's already a 5/5 flying creature, we can still tap down creatures to add more counters with the station ability. So now our legendary creatures are safely tapped down, so even if our opponent has a sweeper, all our creatures will survive and we just lose our spacecraft instead. And then if we're attacking with the legendary creatures, they will also turn into an indestructible threat, so there's plenty of synergy throughout. And then besides these 8 spacecraft, we also have 2 vehicles. The hover ship we can crew the old-fashioned way, and when it enters we can exile a creature with toughness 5 or less, and when the hover ship leaves the battlefield, the opponent gets to manifest dread, so they don't get the original creature back. So we've got 10 of these vehicles and spacecraft to easily tap down Kona on the following turn to enable survival. We also have 3 copies of a Rip Spawn Hunter as another creature with the survival mechanic, so if this is tapped at the beginning of our second main phase, we get to reveal the top X cards of our library, where X is Rip's power, so that's usually going to be 4, and then put any number of creatures and or vehicle cards with different powers from among them into our hand. So sadly it does miss on the new spacecraft, but it can still help find our various curve toppers, which we can then maybe cheat into play with Kona or maybe with a sea chip. So that's our primary game plan, just try and get these vehicles and Kona in play as soon as possible, and then we can start cheating our curve toppers into play, which as I've mentioned are all legendary. We've got the full playset of Galta Stampede Tyrant, a 12/12 Trampler, and when it enters we can put any number of creature cards from our hand onto the battlefield. So if we manage to cheat out Galta, we can cheat out all other expensive creatures we might have stuck in hand, so that sets up the most explosive start possible. And then we've got some one-offs that we can also maybe tutor up with a Seriema depending on the situation. We've got Zetalpa as a 4/8 with flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible, so that's maybe useful to get if we're afraid of an opposing sweeper or instant speed removal that can destroy our threats. Then there's Absolute Virtue, which says we have protection from each of our opponents, so now we can't be damaged by the opponent's creatures either, so then they first need to deal with Absolute Virtue. We can also maybe protect it with the Seriema if it's tapped, so we can also maybe prevent the opponent from removing it in the first place. And then there's Urani, which can also maybe deal a bunch of damage when it enters, has protection from white and from black on a 10-10 flyer. There's Volgavoth, if we maybe want a big life linker that's difficult for the opponent to remove. And finally, Progenitus, which has protection from everything, so that's also not an easy card for most decks to deal with. So lots of options when it comes to legendary curve toppers, definitely room for customization, but these are the ones I'm battling with today. And then the mana base also gets an overhaul since we have access to half of the shock lands, and the Naya colors are pretty lucky since they have access to both Stomping Ground and Sacred Foundry, so these are great ways to fix your mana, and since they have both basic land types, they also pair very nicely with the Verge lands, so Sunbillow Verge and Hushwood Verge are routinely going to be able to make both colors. And this is a type of deck where you want access to green mana on turn 1 to cast your Llanowar Elves, but you also might need double white on turn 2 already if you want to curve elves into the Seriema. And since we do not have Temple Garden as a shockland in Standard, it's going to be a lot more difficult, but we can maybe get there with turn 1 Hushwood Verge, which makes green to play Llanowar Elves, and then turn 2 we need a Plains, can be basic Plains or it can be Sacred Foundry, and then all of a sudden we'll have the double white required to play the Seriema. Could also get there with Starting Town, which can play turn 1 elves, and then any white source can set up the Seriema on turn 2, so this is another important piece of mana fixing until we'll eventually get Temple Garden to help out. Lush Portico still helps with the Verge lands, but of course does enter tapped, but the Surveil can also maybe help set up our various combos, and then one of each basic here with Plains and Forest. Red is more of a splash for Enzrag, and we still have plenty of red sources between all the shock lands, the Verge land and Starting Town. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand can play elves, ramp out turn 3 Enzrag, but that's kind of where the fun ends. So I'll take my mulligan, and this is excellent. Turn 3 can have a tapped Kona, so now we're just hoping to find some expensive things to put in play. Opponent's on Grim Bauble, so takes care of our elves. So Sea Chip we can also turn on by playing Enzrag on the following turn. So we don't necessarily need Kona. Play the ship. So our opponent sacrifice deck. Bauble also an artifact you can sacrifice to the Zealots. So they are black-red. Another Zealot, a little bit redundant. And the Black Mage's Rod provides 2 things to maybe sacrifice. Alright, so we can Enzrag, turn on the Sea Chip, put in Kona. Not the most exciting sequence. Could have also opted for the reverse, where we Kona and then keep Enzrag on defense, which at least can block a 3-powered creature profitably. But if they do have removal left, I would rather have them take out Kona. Opponent's got a draft. I'll draw a card, can sack it to draw again. Legion Extruder is 2 damage. And goes upstairs. And I'll offer the trade. There we go, Progenitus, that's what we're talking about. So what's our best sequence? Sea Chip can attack, just puts in Progenitus, and then I can cast Kona, keep an extra creature back, because otherwise they would just double block Enzrag. And then Progenitus can take them out if they're at 10 life. Alright, your move. Maybe an Edict effect can still answer Progenitus, but it does have protection from everything, so that includes most things. For now, a Voidborn. Alright, so yeah, that's scary. Because now all those creatures and artifacts represent 1 damage with the Zealot. So they might be able to drain us to death. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're at a virtual 3 life. So another Extruder could be game. Yeah, needed to find that Progenitus a turn sooner. Or maybe I should have offered the trade for Ansrag. Because without the Zealot, it's a lot harder for them to combo off. Our opponent's doing math. Can they get there? It's gonna be another draft. Triggering the Rod. Is that enough? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe they're 1 short. So our opponent passes. And then now Progenesis can do the honors. And getting in for 10. Alright, very close game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We can curve Hovership into Ansrag, but that's not the combo with Kona. So, take a mulligan. This one looks more promising. I'll keep. So, I think I do keep the Llanowar Elves to give us a bit more mana. We have the double white to play our spacecraft. And then we might want to get Kona with the ability. So then, would I rather have Ansrag or Rip afterwards? I think a Rip makes sense as a way to find more action. Starting town I can keep on top. Play elves, and then next turn I can play my spacecraft. And then try and curve that into Kona. Now I still need a land, which we found. Instant speed removal for Kona can still get us. Otherwise I can station to make our legendaries indestructible as well. So I just want them to tap out Saboteur, that's fine. So they're kind of on a black aggro deck. So I get to enact my plan. Play Kona. Station. Put in Galta. Which puts in Rip. And then, yeah, I guess we wouldn't be able to quite enable Rip this turn, since it triggers beginning of our second main phase. But I can still enable my spacecraft, and if I tap Galta, it's also safe, because it's not going to be blocking the Saboteur anyways. So yeah, let's do that. And this. Or I can pass with a plan of double blocking, but then they can take out Galta. Yeah, I think we just make Galta indestructible for now. And then if they have removal, they may end up using it on the spacecraft, but it's already done its job. Alright, and our opponent scoops it up, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have Sea Chip, but no Ansrag to really enable it. No Kona. So this one's borderline. We can curve maybe Hovership into Rip, have some removal, start drawing cards, and look for Kona that way. So maybe it's not the worst hand to keep. With 2 Surveils, we also get a few more looks to either find our other spacecrafts, Ansrag, or Kona. So we've got quite a few outs. Galta seems a bit ambitious here, without a way to cheat it in play just yet. Opponent blue-white. There's Kona. Alright, so now Sea Chip into Kona is the preferred sequence. Opponent with a relic, so more of an artifact deck. So So we do not have a 4th land yet. Wouldn't be able to find one. But now I guess I prefer this spacecraft, or do I? There is still an upside to enabling the sea chip. Especially with the RIP finding more creatures, we can keep putting them in play. And I'm not going to be able to make my creatures indestructible right away. Starfield Shepherd, possible they've got a flicker effect to keep the warp creature on the battlefield. Otherwise, gets the Inquisitor and Splash Portal. So they did get to flicker it. Find another land or 1-drop. Don't want to exile my expensive Curved Toppers to Inquisitor, because once they're exiled, I wouldn't be able to cheat them in play anymore. Alright, so I guess it's Hover Ship now. Exile your Shepherd. Play a tap land. And then I don't really need Starting Town. Inquisitor hits my other spacecraft. They can pick it up and replay it, exiling something else, which would probably be a RIP. Do want them to tap out so we can Kona into Volgavoth. Alright, the Stalker can go for the 1-drop, and then Pixie picks up the Relic. Or the Stalker goes for Relic, so they get to draw again. And then Inquisitor comes back from being exiled. So yeah, pretty effective, but we do get to enact our plan. Play Kona. And then Volgavoth, I think, over Absolute Virtue, but they're both decent. Yeah, if our opponent can flicker Inquisitor again, I'm going to lose one of them. I think would rather have Volgavoth in play right now. It's harder for the opponent to remove. And then may as well do this now. And then pass it back. So now Sea Chip could also maybe cheat Absolute Virtue into play. Replay Relic to draw. So our opponent's digging for answers. And Splash Portal the Inquisitor, so goodbye Absolute Virtue. Although now we get to steal the Splash Portal, so we can maybe put it to use. And a Parting Gusts, and they can pay the ward here from Volgavoth. Sacking their board. Okay, that was a pretty effective turn, all things considered. Now I can play RIP. Use it to crew the hover ship. Smash. And then RIP can first go looking for something to put in play with Kona. And that's kind of a swing and a miss, but I guess I'll take a backup RIP and Lanor Elves. Can put Lanor Elves into play. And pass. We'll see if they have any board wipes. Then having RIP as a leftover to once again crew the hover ship isn't bad. It's gonna be the Stalker. Can exile RIP. And they're passing with mana up. Possible there's another Parting Gusts. Now Galta we can put in play. Alright, so what makes sense? I can just play RIP, crew hover ship and attack. Opponent had a Kirin, so that picks up the Stalker. I'm gonna keep the tapped RIP. I mean, I could tap it again, I suppose. Doesn't matter. And then go to attackers. Putting in Galta. that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Can play Elves off Hushwood Verge, and then still have double white once we play Sacred Foundry. Now we've got a Curve Topper to cheat and play with Kona. Opponent black-white, maybe a sacrifice deck. Yeah, I'll go for Kona. Does mean our opponent could be keeping up instant speed removal. Getting Ansrag could have also helped us immediately enable the spacecraft, in which case Sea-Chip can also maybe cheat things into play. Opponent going for reinforcements into Sephiroth, so kind of your classic black-white sacrifice deck. So yeah, Coast is clear for Kona into Urani, dealing 3 damage. So that can deal with Sephiroth. And the protection from black and white is also pretty relevant in this matchup. I'll fully enable my spacecraft, so now my tapped legendaries are indestructible. So it's going to be very hard for them to answer Urani. Yeah, this was pretty much the ideal start. Turn 3, Beastie, put in a Curve Topper, and that'll do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We are missing a couple of lands. Otherwise, Sea-Chip into Ansrag could cheat Ghalta into play. So it does have potential, but if I don't find 2 lands in my first 3 draw steps, this hand doesn't do anything. So I'll take a mulligan. This time we've got plenty of lands, but no Ansrag to enable the Sea-Chip, no Kona either. So down to 5 we go. Alright, not excited, but can curve Hovership into Rip and hopefully find more action afterwards. If I keep Ansrag, then it's really the Sea-Chip that would be the best draw. We'll try this out. Absolute Virtue can be binned. Don't have a way to cheat it and play yet, and need to hit my land drops. Alright, Ghalta gives us a Curve Topper, although it's not really what we need right now. So I guess I'll wait on Hovership, even though if I draw land, it's nice to be able to immediately tap down a Rip. Opponent with a World Wagon, which I cannot exile, only creatures. So we're not off to a great start. Play the Sea-Chip. So now with a land, we have a way to tap down a Rip. And opponent's got Kona to cheat stuff into play as well. So, and get a taste of our own medicine. Alright, let's see how dead we are. Voltborn Tyrant. I guess it could have been worse. But we're pretty far from doing the same. I guess I can take 2, take another... I mean, I guess they're probably crewing the World Wagon, so then I might be forced to just Hovership Kona, but then we're nowhere close to putting Ghalta into play with Progenitus. Whereas at least if I Rip, enable Sea-Chip, then next turn I would have a chance to put in Ghalta, in turn putting in Progenitus, but then I'm just dead on board to your opponent crewing World Wagon and hitting me for 12 since I need to shock myself. So, do we have any outs? I guess top deck Ansrag to enable Sea-Chip next turn, and then I'm not necessarily dead. I guess Kona would also be a fine top deck here. So if we're not dead, we have 8 outs between Kona and Ansrag. And since I didn't have to shock myself, even Crew World Wagon is still 1 short. Opponent's got their own spacecraft. Can find a replacement Kona. And goes for Absolute Virtue, which we binned earlier. And another World Wagon. Okay, so then Volborn Tyrant can crew the World Wagon. Take 8. Kona or Ansrang off the top, please. And there we go. Sea Chip. Put in Galta, which puts in Progenitus and Rip. So we still maybe have a game on our hands, but yeah. Opponent's got some decent options. So what am I doing next turn? Maybe just get in for 10 with Progenitus. Although, if they can put Absolute Virtue into play, how do we get rid of it is a question. Because I don't think we can remove it. So then we also don't have a way to win the game. Opponent casts it, since I guess Cavern was naming Avatar. Does Ansrang do anything for me? Must be blocked each combat this turn if able. Now Virtue is indestructible thanks to the Seriema. Yeah, I wonder how this game plays out if we both have an Absolute Virtue. Another Sea Chip is not going to do it, so... yeah. I guess I can tap Rip, see if that finds anything useful. But yeah, attacking is not going to help. Because our opponent doesn't take any damage from my creatures. Progenitus also doesn't make a difference. So then we just need to hope to find something useful with the Rip. Otherwise this might have been enough for lethal. Rip is a swing and a miss. Can station my Sea Chip all the way, so we have an extra flying blocker. But if Absolute Virtue attacks, it's also tapped, so then double blocking is not going to take it out. But yeah, still a miracle we got this far. If it weren't for the opponent's Virtue, we might have actually gotten there after top decking Ansrang when it seemed hopeless. And they've got another one. It is legendary, but they can still tutor up whatever they want. And goes for Kona. The World Wagons are going to get busy. At least those aren't indestructible. So I can crew the hover ship, jump the 8/8, double block the 5/5. If I had even more flyers, then I guess there was a chance I could have dealt 8 damage to the Virtue, and then once this dies as well. Turns out our opponent had to reroute systems to make their 5/5 indestructible. So that's not going to help. So I need to find another big flyer, pretty much. But we might also die to an all-out attack next turn. Maybe Valgavoth can still keep me alive. Our opponent has got their own Valgavoth, so we definitely have a very similar idea. So can Surveil, maybe set up a Rip. What do we find? Another Rip and an Elves. Alright, so we seem very dead now. GG's. So you get some additional ideas of how to build a deck besides the one we're featuring today. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand's got potential. We have a C chip into Ensrag to enable the C chip, or we can just tap Kona with the C chip to accomplish more or less the same. So just need to hit our land drops. And I'll wait on starting town. Opponent on a green landfall deck, maybe a build with Tifa, so that's always scary. There's also a new landfall creature to double a creature's power, so they are likely running that as well. But yeah, we've got our C chip and 2 ways to enable it next turn. Upside of Ensrag is that we also get to attack for 4. And yeah, there's Tifa. So no real way to remove it. But putting in Valgavoth as a blocker is hopefully good enough. Next turn we can also make our tapped legends indestructible, or tutor up something to put in play. So that can help. But we do need to survive this upcoming turn. I think a 9/9 lifelinker is gonna suffice. Now Royal Treatment I guess I'll cast to grow Valgavoth some more. 1 life for an extra +1/+1 seems worth it. And alright, our opponent scoops it up, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand is probably not going to be good enough. We have Kona, but no way to tap it down, and then no real payoff besides Ensrag, which is more of an enabler. And this I could try. We have Hovership to tap down Kona, and then Galta to cheat in play. So then Ensrag might be weaker than Rip, since Rip can help find additional threats if we tap it down with a Hovership. Still need to find a second white source and 2 additional lands, no matter what. Opponent starting with a Leyline Axe, so does not bode well for us. Found a land at least, can keep another one. So then we can curve Hovership into Kona. Is that going to be good enough? So get a Stomping Ground in play maybe. We'll have double white with a Verge. Opponent equips Zac, alright, so can exile it with a Hovership. That should buy us more time. And hope they don't have any instant speed removal to interact. For now, Freya. And Jite. And they're gonna mostly tap out to equip, so for 1 mana I don't think there's anything I need to worry about. So I'll go straight for Kona. Crew Hovership. And may as well attack. Put in Galta, which puts in the rest. Next turn we can tap down Rip to find more threats. Could have kept Hovership back to maybe block Freya. Opponent does have removal here for Galta. So that's gone. And equip Freya, so yeah, Hovership would not have done much for us here. And they have a leftover mana. For another containment, ouch. Well, I guess that can deal with the rip, and now we lost our card draw engine. So now we're just hoping to cheat more stuff in play with Kona, but we're also taking a beating in the air with the GT also pumping up their creature if it connects with double strike. That happens twice. And I don't think we have any removal to really punish this all-in strategy. So before regular damage, they could have pumped up Freya some more. Another Galta. Is that going to be good enough? It's something. Second crew hover ship attack. Put in Galta, and then we're maybe not quite dead next turn. Yeah, they cannot untap Freya, they can only untap a land. Just making sure Kona's not running into an ambush here. Put in another Galta. But your opponent can put 2+1 counters on Freya. And then that's essentially hitting for 8. And after first strike they could put another counter on it. Now color for lifelink is also relevant. We're gonna let it play out and see. But yeah, go for 2+1 counters. So their opponent gains 4, and then they can gain 5 if they put another counter on it after first strike damage. Which they will do this time. So then we fall to 2. Opponent back up to 18, I have 16, 17, 18, so I guess I would have just enough here. I can even put an Absolute Virtue into play, which would actually save us as well. So I think we just about got it done. Alright, that's lethal, but Absolute Virtue would have saved us as well. Alright, so we get to see this Naya space survival deck in action, and it is capable of some pretty broken starts, but on the flip side it's not the most consistent deck. You probably need to mulligan once or twice, and then your hand can quickly fall apart, especially if the opponent has instant speed interaction for your Kona, for instance. So it's not the most reliable strategy, don't expect it to be particularly competitive on the ranked ladder, but it is a fun way to spend some time, especially if you want to try out the new spacecraft and constructed. So that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.